we're going to the third floor, the mariachi playing to be ready, but let's go welcome Dr. Jorge Partida.
Hi everybody. Everybody with me here? It's good to see you all. I first want to say thank you, hermano. Thank you for your dedication to our community and for your hard work. 20 years is a whole legacy. So thanks for this invitation. I am a psychologist by training, but I'm a healer by birth. I knew that I wanted to dedicate my life to be a healer ever since I can remember. I grew up with a grandmother who was a curandera in near Puerto Vallarta. And growing up in the Mexican rainforest in a hut with a dirt floor was the best training of my life. I grew up being close to this amazing, magical woman that represented a different world, a world that no longer exists. And I wanted to capture as much of her legacy as I possibly could. And when we came to the States, and her life changed, but so did mine. She went from being a curandera to being a factory worker and worrying about her lonche and her raite and all these other things that were so different than the woman that I knew, but her legacy stayed with me always. And when I went to school, I wanted to be a psychologist because I thought that was the closest thing that I could find in this culture that really had to do with who she was. And when I told my grandmother what I wanted to do with my life, she became sad, and she told me that she was concerned for me because she was concerned that going to a university was going to blur out the information that she had worked so hard to try to invest in me. And I hope that for a long time I was very upset about that statement. I felt like it was a superstitious, non-scientific view of, life. And so I distanced myself from her until I graduated from college and realized that, what she was talking about. Culture is tradition, and tradition is strength. And strength is healing. And for me as a psychologist, I've really been interested in looking at the role of healing across cultures because my belief is if there is something that's universal about psychology, about healing, it has to be seen in every single culture, right? So Latinos, Mexicans, Latin Americans, Nitkan Tlaca, people of the native nations, all of us, we not only have a different culture, we have a different way of understanding what this journey of life is all about. And for us to remember that, as Carl Jung says, we inherit not just the color of our eyes from our parents, we inherit the archetypes, the legends, the stories, the myths, the dramas. And for us Latinos to not be aware of what that story is for us is grossly alienating and disease-making. We know that the idea of dis-ease, to be out of ease with ourselves, is to be out of balance, it's to be out of sorts. Illness is illness because we're not at the flow, we are not at the ease of life. Some people would say that disease is a choice, that at some point we make a conscious decision to separate ourselves from the flow of our goodness. And we do that not consciously. We do that because we come to believe the myth that other people say we are. And we superimpose that myth on our own reality and begin to be confused about who we are and why we're here and what our purpose is. We forget. So for me, the story of healing, the story of psychology in my life has been about trying to guide people to connect to the truth of themselves, to connect to a deeper sense of who they are. The idea of talking about faith in the community is important, but we also have to understand it from the perspective of our ancestors who really didn't have any words that were separate. They didn't have science, they didn't have body, they didn't have religion, they didn't have all these little boxes that we love to create in this culture. If we can't put something in the smallest divisible element, it's not real for our culture. That's a completely, astoundingly different way of perceiving the world than the world of our ancestors, where everything was integrated. Everything was comprehensive and indivisible. The idea of studying the stars was no different than studying the nature of God, or studying the nature of health, or studying the source of the spirit that brings art into creation, or science into being. For them, everything was one expression, one reality. I have spent much of my professional life analyzing this amazing piece of art, which is so much more than a piece of art. We have erroneously allowed this stone to be called the Aztec calendar, when in reality there were no Aztecs, and this stone came before the Aztecs. We call them the Aztecs because that's a name historically that we've given to the Nican Tlaca, to the Mexica tribes. But to them, this stone is older than time itself. And the reason why I'm so fascinated by this stone is because it really depicts the entire movement of energy and life in picture form. The myth of our ancestors says that we were made and destroyed 5 different times. That the idea of this physical world that we live in, this is the 5th generation, the 5th world, the 5th and final world. And so we can think of these mythologies as just like, well, nice, interesting stories about humanity and about our ancestors. But more than really an interesting narrative, an interesting myth, there's a lot of science in what our ancestors were trying to teach us. The whole idea of 5 previous worlds is deeply connected to the evolution of this earth. To them, the existence of the first world, which is the world of water, is the beginning of life on this planet. We look at evolution, and what evolution teaches us about water, evolution tells us that everything emerged from the ocean. In fact, evolution tells us that you, sitting in this chair, are mostly water. Your body has the same composition as the ocean does. And so you're connected to that ocean. You're part of that. That's the first world. That was the first world of creation, the world of water. The second world for our ancestors is the world of earth. The world of earth is the second life. Out of the water emerges everything on this planet. Everything that lives, that is rooted, is connected to the earth. We are children of the earth. We're part of it. We're not separate from it. I see this reality in my dog. I take my dog out to the park, and I live in downtown LA. The grass in downtown LA is the prized commodity, and we know where to hunt for the best grass. No pun intended there. We go to Pershing Square, and my dog finds this amazing discovery of grass, and he rolls around, and he eats it, and he chews on it, and he's giving thanks. And I recognize that energy because I also feel like how rare it is for us to just touch down on earth, real earth, and to recognize the strength, the life that we get out of being connected to the earth. The next world of existence for our ancestors was the world of fire. The world of fire is the point of transformation, where out of earth and fire combined, the great diversity of life happens. Our industrial evolution, fueled by fire, our engines, our cars, our homes, our bodies, our hearts. The next evolution for them was the world of the wind. Wind has given us the ability to breathe. Wind has given us the ability to connect to everything that breathes. It's not just our breath. Wind is also our voice. And to our ancestors, the voice is the reflection of the divine. You are closest to God because you can use your voice to express your original sense of self, your original tonali, your unique spirit, your energy. It is through your voice that your divinity comes forth into human existence. That's why in our Father's tongue, you look at the center of this face is Father, Mother, Creator in the center. And you see all the changes that have ever happened around this central face. And you see that this face is not moved, looking straight on, unafraid, eternal, unwavering. You see his tongue, shaped like a sacrificial knife, reminding us all that the word can cut. The word is powerful and can cut. You also see a central eye in there, in the tongue. It says, watch your words. Watch your words. Watch how you speak to each other. Do your words divide or unite? Do your words love or hate? Do your words unite or destroy? That's the energy that you're manifesting in this life. That's the karma that you're manifesting in this life. And so wind is critical because it is your breath. It is the breath of God breathing through you, and it is also your voice. It is the unique voice that has been given to you to utilize in a manner that expresses your unique purpose on this earth. There has never been one you before. Ever. And there never ever will be another you. There'll be people that look like you, but there will never ever ever in the history of creation be another you. And so why you? Why now? Why in this place? Why in this fashion? Why in this form? Those are the existential questions that our ancestors say we cannot forget to ask ourselves and to live by. Why you? Why now? Why in this form? The last evolution is the evolution that we're living today. 2012, we dismissed as a myth, just another hocus pocus myth from these indigenous people. And so on December 22nd of 2012, the codex came to an end. And so everybody, all the knowers have said, well, they falsely predicted that the end of the world would come on 2012. But what the codex actually says is it will be the end of the world as you have known it. It would be the end of the world as you have known it. And so the final world is the world of space. The final frontier. Space is the expansiveness of consciousness. It's the infinite totality. And interestingly enough, what our ancestors were saying 25,000 years ago, which is the recorded history, totality in this calendar, 25,000 years of human consciousness and evolution and recorded history, what they were saying about that is what we today are coming to understand by the knowledge of quantum physics. Because quantum physics is telling us, teaching us that at the subatomic level of perception, reality is not what you think it is. Matter doesn't behave in consistent, predictable ways. There are alternate universes that can exist in the expansiveness of time. And so, what quantum physics is teaching us today, our ancestors were telling us 25,000 years in the past. So, like Carl Jung says that we inherit the entire history of creation, so does our body inherit the entire history of creation. And the 5 worlds I'm going to teach you, the 5 worlds of creation are in your body. They're carried in your body. In Ayurvedic medicine, we call those chakras. And in Ayurvedic medicine, there's 7 of them. So in Ayurvedic medicine, there's 7 chakras. But in our ancestral view, there's 5 worlds. And because you are a part of that history, all these 5 worlds are still collectively existing presently in your body right now. The first world, the world of water, is found at the tip of your tailbone and the front of your sexual organs. This is the first world. It is the place of elimination, where our body is able to release the water and is able to cleanse you, allowing you to continue to have life. The second world, the world of earth, is the world of the digestive system. You're able to take food in, you're able to digest it, and you're able to give back to the earth what it needs for nutrients, what it needs for its own growth, except that now we flush it down. But that's the earth connecting you back to life. I have walked around where my dog has peed, and life happens incredibly, because there's so many nutrients in that waste. What becomes waste for one species becomes energy for another. And so we're connected. This is the earth. Then the world of fire is your heart, your passion, the center of your soul, the center of your tonali, your unique energy is in your heart. The heart is a tricky place to live in, but it's one that requires great courage. It is also the midpoint between the lower energies and the higher energies. It's the midpoint. The heart is considered the point of transmutation, the point of taking material in life, spinning it, massaging it, playing with it until you get the gold. When you suffer with your heart, and you're letting go of the illusion and holding on to the truth. Then we go to the world of the wind, the world of the throat, the 4th world of existence. Humanity goes from being a passionate and animalistic being to being measured, being more controlled, recognizing you have power in your voice. You have power in your expression. And so we move into the world of being able to use the air, the breath of God, to be able to communicate in our unique language, to be able to communicate our uniqueness to another. So now we have consciousness. We have the birth of self-awareness, birth of civilizations, of organized living, of communication. And the ultimate world, the world in which we're currently living, is the world of the evolution of the frontal lobe, higher consciousness. It is the world of the crown of your head. It is the world where, as we know, the last thing to develop in human beings is the brain, the last thing to mature. The human brain doesn't finish developing until your late 20s or early 30s. That's why we think we're so invisible when we're young. Nothing's going to get us. There's no such thing as time. Death does not exist. You don't have debt. But then you acquire enough life experience. You acquire enough life years. And then all of a sudden, you begin to see the patterns. All of a sudden, if you're paying attention, You begin to see the design of life that you've created for yourself. It's at that point of awareness of those patterns that we can actually change the script. And changing the script is hard work because most of us are not living an awakened life. Most of us are not paying attention, so we don't see the patterns. We don't see the patterns. It's like that old Buddhist story about a guy walking down the street. He's walking down, and he's not looking down, and he falls into a big, deep hole in the street. He struggles, and he struggles, and he struggles, and can't get out. And after a long time of struggle, finally gets out. The next day, he's walking down the same street, completely forgets about his struggle of yesterday, falls into the same hole. Struggles, not as much as yesterday, but still struggles. Gets out. Next day, he's walking down the street, somehow forgets about his suffering, falls back into the hole, now knows how to get out, gets out a little faster. Next day, he's walking down the street, he sees the hole, he steps aside. The next day, he walks down a different street. We will learn. Some of us learn faster than others. Some of us learn with love and kindness, and some of us learn by getting kicks in the butt. We all have different styles of learning. We all have different karmas. We have different energies that we're here to align. But regardless of whether you're an easy learner or you gotta get your butt kicked to get it, you'll get it. You don't have any other choice. It's the commitment that you made. Our ancestors believed that when we came into this earth, we entered into a contract with our Creator. We agreed to take on the charges of life because we were welcoming the growth of our soul. We were welcoming the purification of our spiritual energies. And that was the contract that we willingly entered into when we came into this birth. We chose our parents because they were the perfect parents to teach us the lessons that we needed to learn. We chose the perfect relationships that we've had because they were the heartache that we were supposed to have experienced. We chose these experiences in life because it's what our soul needs for its development. These teachings, for me, are not just teaching me more about my cultural heritage. They're not just teaching me about the way that my ancestors used to view the world. I believe what they were teaching in the first generations, where oral tradition was being passed on from one generation to the next until it came to my grandmother and comes to me. I believe in that message. And part of that message is that we are the medicine. We are the medicine that this world needs. Our experience as Latinos in this country, in this time, allows us to understand the complexities of what energies, crazy, psychotic energies we're dealing with. And it's, what do we do? What is it that we are each being called to do, to say, to act, to make a mark before we're being called back to go home? This is the purpose of our lives, to figure out how and what is it, what power brought us together today in this place, in this room, under this canopy, to have this conversation, to have this questioning about what is it that we do as healers in order to help somebody else. As healers, we chose this profession because we want to be of help. And the best tool that we have at our disposal to be able to fulfill that mission, to be able to fulfill that purpose which we are called to bring forth, is to take care of ourselves. To know our own machine, to know how it works, and to know how this energy is connected, and to know how to move it, and to know how to harness it, how to direct it. As a psychologist, I'm often kind of looked at funny for talking about energy. You know, I always say, well, I'm also a curandero, and that's a big part of my tradition. But as a psychologist, I don't shy away from the word of energy either, because everything is energy. At the most rudimental and scientific explanation of your thoughts, it is nothing than an electrical impulse. Two synapses connecting together, a charge miraculously created in the brain that somehow is able to be expressed, that message is able to be carried down to your nerves. So giving messages to every cell of your body to react to the thought, to physically react if the message is one of danger. Get yourself out of the way of danger, and so your blood and your muscles get flooded with these warning messages. A message of self-care if you're feeling overwhelmed and anxious, of listening to that energy and understanding it and having a sacred connection with it. And why is it that for so many of us it's so difficult to have a sacred connection with ourselves? I always tell my clients, look in the mirror. What's the first thing that you think of? I know. If I could fail, you know. It's important to think about the reaction that you have, because it's the connection that you have to yourself. It's the relationship that you have to yourself. And if there is no kindness in that look, if there's no compassion for yourself, how is it possible for you to gather the muster to have compassion for somebody else? Where do you get it? Where do you find it? Or as they say in 12 steps, you fake it till you make it? We are the vehicle. We are the tool that we utilize. And so for us to not understand our own energies, to not understand what's going on within our own bodies and our own minds, and how to heal that, and how to direct that healing energy to other people so that they can also be a part of this divine flow. You not waking up to your reality affects everybody. It affects your children. It affects your spouses. It affects your co-workers. It affects our future. So, if there is one thing that I would like to leave you with, is pay attention to the magic of the world that is occurring within yourself, dying to be awakened to its divine and eternal reality. There's something wanting to express itself through you. And so understanding what the barriers are to that flow is critical. Is it depression? Is it anxiety? Is it trauma? Is it something else? We all have our cross to bear. We all have something. And sitting there and comparing mine to yours, or whether yours is bigger or yours is worse or yours is more significant or whatever, is useless. You'll never know any other reality other than the one you're living in right now. You will never know the infinite power of what exists out there beyond the universe, if not through your own mind, through your own ability to let go, to your own ability to go beyond the boxes, the little boxes that you've created to put meaning to this mystery. Divide it up into something that you can control and you can manipulate and you can sell and you can trade. There's mysteries beyond all of that. We know that the earth was never intended to be sold. We know that we were never intended to be second-class citizens. We know that we were never intended to be products of colonization and oppression. We know. We believe that. We know that. We live by that. But it's not sufficient for us to understand
that we don't deserve to be oppressed. It is important for us to take it beyond the awareness of oppression and take it to the point of liberation. The liberation of your own limited thinking. The liberation of your own internalized oppression. Because we no longer need the oppressor to be by our side to remind us of our oppression. We become so familiar with the voice of oppression that we often confuse it with our own voice. And confusing it with our own voice, we act in ways that are incongruent to our authentic self. And we will not know what that authentic self is if we don't stop and listen. Tuning in, however you do, whatever religious or spiritual practice, as mentioned before, whatever tradition you use, doesn't matter. All roads lead to the same truth. It's a matter of recognizing that this is the only purpose of your life and to connect to it. The only purpose is to be self-aware. You are the vehicle. Your self-awareness, your awakened consciousness is the vehicle. It's the vehicle of transformation. It's the vehicle of healing. There have been many patients that have been healed with no scientific explanation. Cancer patients are sometimes spontaneously healed. And when you ask people what is it that heals them, it's your faith. It's always your faith. Your faith in a doctor, your faith in an operation, your faith in a psychologist, your faith in whatever. It's your faith. But be aware of what that is, and be aware of what is limiting you, what's getting in your way. You're greater than your fears. You're greater than your limitations. And what happened to you yesteryear, your past, does not have to be your future. Thank you so much for your time and attention. I appreciate it very, very. Thank you.